So can I just confirm that everyone can see my screen, my presentation?
Yeah, I can see your screen and I can hear you as well, Ralph.
Brilliant. Okay. Right, so my name's Ralph. I am a GIS manager at Sustrans, and today with my colleague Adam, who's a volunteer coordinator at Sustrans, we're going to talk to you about how Arcgis field technology is helping us to make the National Cycle Network safer and more accessible, and how we're working with volunteers on the ground who are using Survey 123 to collect data specifically about signage on the network. So Sustrans is a charity. We work all across the UK. We work with 650 colleagues, 3,000 volunteers and 30,000 supporters, which I think makes us pretty formidable. And together we make it easier for people to walk and cycle. We have two strategic priorities: livable cities and towns, which is all about working with stakeholders and communities to design places around the people that live in them, and Path for Everyone, which is all about making the National Cycle Network safer and accessible for everyone. And this is what we'll focus on today. If you want to find out more about what we do as a charity, do check out the Sustrans website. There's loads of really useful information on there. So we've been working with Arcgis for a little over 2 years. We decided to develop Arcgis Online with Desktop Pro, operating largely in the cloud. And there are a couple of reasons for this decision. So Arcgis Online is a platform as a service, which means there was very little setup time required compared to a full server setup. And for our requirements at Sustrans, this was the best solution. We don't need to perform updates. These happen automatically with Arcgis Online. And it means that we can work more independently as a GIS team, which also helps to alleviate some of the workload on IT. And as a small GIS team, we have a lot of experience with Safe Software FME or Interoperability Suite for Desktop Pro, which we use for all our back-end data management. And I think so far the overall solution is working really well for the charity. So for this case study, we'll be talking about Path for Everyone, where we as a charity are working really hard to make the National Cycle Network safer and more accessible. And it's worth mentioning that Sustrans are custodians of the network. We don't actually own it. In 2015, we audited the entire network. And in 2018, we reviewed it, identifying sections on it that need widening, where surface needs improving, where better signage is required, and where barriers need to be improved to be more accessible for everyone. We also identified on-road sections that did not meet a safety standard, and this was informed by using INRIX flow and speed data, which we purchased for the entire UK. We ended up removing 747 miles of the network and reclassifying 3,095 miles, where the on-road section formed part of a named or promoted route. So now that these sections have been identified, the next phase of the project is to remove or rebrand the NCN signs on those reclassified routes, which, as you can imagine, is no small task. And after much deliberation, we decided to use Survey 123. We designed the form to be intuitive and quick to complete using branch logic, which is possible with Survey 123 Connect. The software is mobile accessible, which means we didn't need to invest in additional expensive hardware, and training requirements are less complex. I think smartphone technology these days is so familiar to people. And the mobile app is available to anyone who has a smartphone, so it's really accessible. The survey is designed to capture the location of each signpost that needs action, and for capturing the evidence that a sign has been amended. The survey form can also be used for volunteers to order stickers, and that's something we have to be quite mindful of as a charity, as printing too many can be quite costly. So if you imagine the volunteer audits the sign locations along a 10-mile stretch of the National Cycle Network that's going to be removed or reclassified, they can use the form to order the stickers required to rebrand it or remove it, so cover up the numbers on the signs. And the signs team based in Bristol log into an additional web application, which we've designed to be a project management tool. And they can actually use that to quantify the total number of stickers that are required to rebrand that entire 10-mile section. They can then order and print the exact number and send those to the volunteer who is now in a position to amend the audited posts. We also use the management tool for allocating and managing volunteers who are on the ground. So the volunteer coordinator can log into the tool. They can then plot a line feature using a widget called the Smart Editor. And that line section is assigned attribute information such as the volunteer who's responsible for the work, the priority and the status of the work. So if the section is in progress or is completed. But it's also used for attaching important documentation such as the local authority permission or the logo branding that has been agreed. I think the best thing about working with Arcgis Online is how the data is now synchronized with other applications. So for example, we calculate those line section lengths that have been completed and use this information on a dynamic dashboard so that the directors in Sustrans can use it for monitoring quarterly targets and tracking progress. We've also designed attachment viewing tools for external stakeholders and partners. So for example, in the image on the slide, the red dots are signs that could not be amended by the volunteer for reasons such as the signpost isn't accessible or is too dangerous to amend on the roadside. I think in this example, the signpost is slightly too high for the volunteer to actually do anything to the signpost. The web application itself is easy to share, and all the information the partner requires is available on one page. It's all also displaying live data that updates in real time. It's dynamic. So finally, it's very important for us to show the volunteers their progress. We think Hub is a great platform to do this. So let me pass you over to Adam, who's going to explain a little bit more about Pass for Everyone and volunteer engagement.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Adam Dukes, and I am the volunteer coordinator at Sustrans, covering the southwest of England. And just before I go on, I guess I should just sort of clarify that prior to this project, and really prior to the introduction of ArcGIS at Sustrans, I had no experience of GIS at all. And it's really been down to the culture within Sustrans and the work that Ralph and his team have done to empower and develop the skills of individuals and teams across the charity that I've had the opportunity to take this work on, and within the volunteer network at Sustrans, really progress this piece of work. And we have, over 3,000 volunteers at Sustrans, and many of them are deeply invested in the National Cycle Network. It runs through communities all around the UK, and our volunteers really see it as a community asset, and they give a lot of time to monitor and maintain it. And really, we've wanted to to involve them heavily in this project going forward. And it became clear early on that we couldn't do this work, amending the signs, without them. So for me, understanding the steep learning curve I was on, it's been thinking about, well, how can we invest in technology in our volunteers, give them access, make it easy, but at the same time collect some high quality data. On the photograph there, you can see Sam and Neil. So they're testing out the survey. We did a trial ride back in August, and that was just our sort of toe in the water, really. How is this going to work? How intuitive, how accessible is Survey 123? And we cycled 10 miles. We audited a lot of signs, and the feedback was really positive. The survey they were using was easy, as Ralph was saying. The branch logic made it really simple, straightforward to enter the data. And just getting onto Survey 123, downloading the app, again, really easy. So from that point, we knew we were probably going to be quite successful with this, but then we needed to think, well, how are we going to scale this up? This is a UK project. We've got hundreds of miles to do. And that was a challenge. Moving to the next slide, I think the big challenge has been for us is taking our existing volunteers with us on this journey. You know, many of them, like me, haven't used Arcgis before, no experience of using Survey 123. So, you know, I know, you know, Esri have developed lots of tutorials. There's lots of stuff out there that's helped my learning as I've begun to find out much more about how to do this, to make my first maps and apps, design my first dashboard. So, you know, passing some of that learning on to our volunteers was key to the success of this project, not only in getting them onto the survey and collecting data, but collecting high quality data, getting hundreds of people doing this. And there's a screenshot there from one of the 6 guidance videos that we created for our volunteers. You know, again, making it really easy. Also understand that we didn't have the capacity to manage lots of inquiries and technical issues with our volunteers. So we really, you know, we spent a lot of time getting this guidance right, road testing it, and we've now got, I think, a suite of videos that is really accessible, and we've got volunteers who are now undertaking this training and will shortly be getting out there at scale to collect some of this data. So, you know, that's a really, really exciting moment for us at Sustrans. But it's not only about, obviously, volunteers going out collecting data in pairs at the roadside. It's about how we can ensure that they understand the broader context. And on the next slide, we've got a picture of a dashboard. That's the first dashboard I've made. And again, you know, testament to the GIS team, testament to Ralph and his team for the support they've given me to build this dashboard. And, you know, for Sam and Neil, you know, who took part in that trial, they can access this dashboard on the hub site, and they can see the 10 miles that they did. They can see the data points, and they can understand the broader context, their contribution to this national project, and they can see live data coming in as our volunteers start to get out there doing this all over the UK. And as you can see from the screenshot of the dashboard, we've got a lot of miles to cover here, and that's just the reclassified routes. We've got other routes that we removed. So we've got a lot of miles to cover, a lot of science to do. So, you know, making sure volunteers feel very much part of that work, they feel plugged in at the heart of our work. There's always been something we've wanted to do at Sustrans, but the tools that we're using, the tools that Esri have developed, are making that really, really easy. And that, again, is exciting. So moving on from there and thinking about, you know, this initial project and where we go from here, on the next slide, we've got thinking about next steps. Where do we go from here? We've got lots of stuff we can, lots of places we can go with this. We are moving away from the old ways of clipboards, Excel spreadsheets, volunteers sending photo attachments on emails, land managers emailing me asking, oh, which volunteer works on our bit of land in this location. So, you know, thinking about land management, what are the opportunities there with regard to Survey 123? We've got 16,000 barriers on the network, and you can see a photo there of one of them. Over the next 2 years, you want to do a detailed audit of all of these. So again, that will be a volunteer community-based project. Millennium Mileposts, over 700 of those we're auditing this spring. That's our second Survey 123 volunteer project, where we'll be launching as soon as lockdown eases. And then finally, thinking about livable cities and towns, our other work stream, so away from a national cycle network. What opportunities have we got there, utilising ArcGIS technology, utilising all the tools that we've got that Esri have developed? You know, I know the learning curve I've been on, and I can see now as we begin to feed this out to our volunteers and we start getting data in, the huge opportunities it presents to us. And I think, you know, I've built my first map, my apps, dashboard, I've made a story map, and we're developing a hub site. This is really exciting stuff. And the way we work in communities, the way we work with volunteers is being transformed by these tools, and it's diversifying our volunteer base as well. We're creating short-term accessible roles for all sorts of people from all sorts of backgrounds. So the next 12 to 18 months is going to be very exciting, and we're really just at the beginning of a really exciting story about how we use this technology in the communities we work to create high quality data, creating a better walking and cycling environment for everyone. And that's it from me and from Ralph. Thank you.